Where's Uncle? As everyone leaves the podcast now, welcome back to the Star Wars Guys podcast. We are your hosts. As always, I am Mike. This is Nate. Yep. Spoiler, I was going to say that.
All right. And?
You know him well.
Uncle's out for the second week in a row.
I'm not sure if people know him well anymore.
A little suspicious.
Maybe you just barely know him.
Maybe you do barely know him.
No, you know him well. His presence is
no, he's still on the same trip. Still on the same trip with the fam.
Yep.
Kids are at camp.
He's out there, on Jedi business, as we like to say.
That's right.
Or maybe bounty hunter business.
Either one.
Yeah, something cool.
Something cool, yeah.
But welcome back to the podcast, and I'm sure you all really enjoyed that intro we did tonight. But I promise it's all going to make sense, hopefully, when we describe what our podcast episode is for tonight. Right. So,
probably saw the thumbnail.
You might have seen the thumbnail. Maybe you just clicked on because you're a loyal follower of us, and you're like, ooh, Star Wars Guys episode. I got to listen to it. I got to watch it.
I got to like it. I got to subscribe.
I'm continuously doing this clicking button. You're always doing that. But yeah, so Star Wars change, Nate. Good or bad?
Or good or bad?
That's good, right. Which we say like that. Or bad. So the whole idea behind this podcast, there's a number of things we're going to kind of touch on
Vincent
tonight.
In the chat said, "Peep the Andor shirt is fire." Hey, you're right. I'm ready.
Hey, zoom in though. Zoom in. This says, "Punch it." It's a subtle Star Wars shirt.
Punch it? We always got a Star Wars shirt. But if you saw my post, I made a post earlier. I think I tweeted it. I said, I'm trying to get a Star Wars shirt for every new series. Every Star Wars series that's coming out, I'm going to get a shirt for it. I was really late on the Kenobi one. And I was like, I forgot to get a Kenobi shirt. And so I didn't have it for our whole breakdown of every episode, but I finally got the Kenobi shirt. Got it right after. And then I was like, I'm not going to do that for Andor, so I made sure to get the shirt before it comes out.
It's funny you mentioned it. I am actually trying to get a new shirt
every week
for every day of my life.
You probably already got one.
This
kid's got like
people don't have any idea how many
Star Wars shirts at least.
I do have a lot. I mean, it's honestly.
Do you have more Star Wars shirts or Star Wars books?
I still have more Star Wars books because that continues to grow, and that passion that started earlier. I think I have in the 60s. Last I counted, in the 60s of Star Wars books, and that's like Star Wars novels. That's not even counting like any of the vehicles and weapons books and like old stuff that like I grew up with. But those are novels. About half of which, probably. Between a third and a half of which I've read. I try to read a handful every single year. I'm almost done with Shadow of the Sith, finally.
Yeah.
The last couple chapters. But Star Wars shirts, I have over 20, I think.
Over 20. I probably have like 15.
I think I have maybe almost 30. I have so many. Too many that each time I think my wife's like, is this the last one? Are we enough? Actually, no, she just bought a little Grogu Baby Yoda thing for Isaiah, for my son, just yesterday. So we love Star Wars in our household.
Yeah. And welcome everybody to the chat,
yeah.
too.
Sorry.
Welcome.
I was getting right back into our intro.
No, go for it.
Change in Star Wars, good or bad? What does that mean? Provocative title. It means, it can be a number of different things. But starting with kind of the basis of, there have been a lot of different changes over the years in Star Wars. Some behind the camera, some in front of the camera, some canon, some things that were canon became legends, and there's a lot of different things.
Some projects announced that ended up changing.
Director changes. Tony Gilroy comes in and finishes Rogue One, but it was started by Gareth Edwards. There's a lot of different changes in Star Wars. Is it always good? Is it always bad? I see a lot of YouTube headlines sometimes that make me think that the Star Wars world is on fire. I don't believe that's the case.
Right.
I think that Mustafar is on fire.
Well, it's always on fire.
That's true. Although, Rise of Skywalker, it's looking a little embery.
That is true.
It's a little embery. That's
true.
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
That's the nice side of the planet.
That's
light
the
fires.
The grass is always greener. It's like the lava is always cooler on the other side. It's still lava.
It's
gonna be lava either way.
You're still dying.
But yeah, so we're going to discuss do a little deep dive into some of the different changes. One of the big subjects being the special editions that came out in the 90s, and when you have the special editions, which we'll kind of group all together. Anyone who's old enough to remember that there's not just the changes that are made in the special editions, but you had the remastering, you had the special editions, you had the DVD releases, the Blu-ray releases, all the way up to George Lucas adding McClunky just recently for Disney Plus. Star Wars, the future is always in motion.
That's
right. So is Star Wars.
Yeah.
It always changes. Even movies that are made in 1977 somehow are still changing.
That's right.
So, Nate.
But yeah,
that's it.
I do want to say, before we dive into all that, as usual, feel free to participate. If you're watching live and you're here in the chat, I see a bunch of comments already. Vincent, welcome. Jack the Comic Nerd, welcome. I love the name. Ozzy Star Wars Nerd, love it. Welcome everybody to the chat. Feel free to go along with us and comment along with us. Let us know if you've got questions about different changes. Let us know your thoughts on things.
Suggest some things that you're like, hey, this was maybe you're suggesting this is one of my favorite changes that they added in the special editions, or this is a big change like the tone of this show versus the tone of that show. This can go anywhere.
Or maybe certain moments that now you kind of look at and like, does that make me think differently of this
so you're
or
saying,
that?
Did I change? You're saying Star Wars didn't change, but as I grew, I changed.
Right.
Now
Does
I view
it make
that a
you
little bit
look at it differently
too.
now too?
Also like there's also moments that like in Book of Boba Fett now I look at the Tuscans different.
That's right. Exactly.
Differently.
And I would say and some of those might be good things. Some of those you might be, I don't know. But
so
we're going to dive into it.
I love it.
So yeah, feel free to comment along with us and ask those questions as well.
Oh yeah.
I think what kind of sparked this idea, our brother Matt actually brought up the idea. We said, "Hey, what should we talk about on the cast tomorrow? They're in town." And we said, "What should we talk about on the cast?" And he said,
"We should have got him on the cast tonight."
Yeah,
but
he's busy.
He has 3 kids.
Yeah,
it's hard. I have 1 kid, and it's difficult.
Yeah, it's tough.
My son's great. It's just takes a long time.
But yeah, so that kind of sparked the idea of what are these changes? Special editions, were they all good? Were they bad? Do some things go a little too far? Do they not? And just kind of break it down.
Love it.
So with that said, we can talk special editions. We know that was some of it marketing? Was some of it I can resell all of these great films?
Even aware of what the special editions are? Is that lost among some? If you're in the comments, let us know. Do you even remember what some of the changes are?
We got Jack the Comic Nerd said, "I have the '90s special edition VHS box with all the first 3 movies. I like it.
I've got that too. Depends which VHS box set. That might be the black with like the diagonal silver or gold thing that kind of goes over top. I have that one as well."
He also said they should, I guess you're saying re-release now, the original trilogy like it was in theaters in the 70s and 80s.
That is something they have not done, and people have been clamoring for it, but I don't know.
And ever since they changed it too, George has been very adamant about kind of letting the old ones, because he's like, no, I changed it because
he doesn't want to re-release the old ones.
I changed it because I wanted it to be like this. Yeah. This is his idea.
George is very particular about that, and you've got to wonder what's in the contract with Disney of when he sold the rights to them.
Yeah.
You've got to wonder if secretly one of the things is like, hey, you can't do this without my permission, or you can't.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I would love it. I would love to see it.
One of those was McClunky.
McClunky's a new one. McClunky's one of the new ones.
I know.
One of the newest editions.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot there. So
there is
special editions.
A lot of the effects.
Well, a lot of the effects. There's a lot of stuff that was added.
Some extra scenes and moments.
Let's talk real quick. Some highs and lows of special editions. And you and I haven't talked about this at all beforehand, because we don't ever talk about anything before our podcast.
No, it's all off
We
the
rarely
cuff.
even see each other. We try to not even say hello to each other until we're rolling, because
we want it to be authentic.
No use for him if he's not recording. No, because we want we're not podcasting. Wasted space. No, I don't know why that voice. That's nobody. What I was saying, special editions, highs and lows. So let's first go, I'd say some of my least favorite changes. Now, I will preface this by saying none of these things, especially I know in the 90s and into the early 2000s, when a lot of these changes were happening, there was a vocal there were a lot of fans who were quite loud and quite vocal about their displeasure of some of the changes, namely Han shot first, all of these different changes.
Right.
We'll
That's
talk
a big
about
one.
those. But none of these, again, I was young when those changes were made. I was born in 1991. I'm 31 years old. Nate just turned 17.
Yeah, I just got my license.
Just got my license. But some of those changes I know had an effect on people. I didn't really care that much at the time. There are things now that's taking a step back that I'm like, oh, that's something I don't really care for as much. But none of these things make me lose any sleep. Just had to get that out of there. Now, having said that, some of my least favorite things from the special editions, some of the changes. The Han shot first, Greedo shot first debate. I do understand and prefer the version where Han reads the situation of what's going on, and Han, being smooth, decides, okay, Greedo's here to kill me, and I know he's going to do this. I'm going to beat him to the punch. Boom.
Yeah.
And he shoots him. Similar, it's what he ends up doing in Solo.
Right.
And that's obviously Solo was very intentional with showing that.
Vincent said Nate 17. No way. I'm 26.
Yeah, I like that. I just said that out there and then didn't even retract it at all.
I love it. We also got more stuff. I'm gonna keep cutting you off. Because
please do.
We got chat, so we got.
Well, also, I had no idea where I was going.
No, we'll get back to it. But I just want to say we also have comments of the effects didn't age well.
Ooh,
and some things.
Some of those dewbacks, a little bit rough.
Giant space
on
camel.
Tatooine. Yeah, there's a number of things that are a bit jarring now. I rewatched. So currently on Sunday nights, I've mentioned this on the podcast recently. On Sunday nights right now, I am rewatching all of the Star Wars movies. We started with A New Hope, and this past Sunday we watched Phantom Menace, is what we just finished. But I'm rewatching the Star Wars movies with my wife, her parents, and her brother. And we were watching A New Hope, and we were talking through it, and I was talking through some of the special effects and some of the changes that were added. And they started asking, like, well, how will we be able to tell what was added differently? And then all of a sudden you'd see a special effect that you're like, that doesn't look like 1977 special effect. It looks like late 90s. This looks like. And so some of the things are a bit jarring that you can just tell that it's been tampered with. Some of the changes I like very much, and we'll talk about some of those. But just a rapid fire, so I don't just go down a rabbit hole. The Han shot first thing, I prefer Han shooting first.
Yeah. And that's not even an effects thing. That was just a choice.
That just is a
George
choice
like,
that actually
changed.
And there's so many different versions of it. There's them kind of shooting. Now they settled on almost shooting at the same time, which is better than what they actually changed it to initially. It was then changed to a pew pew pew, like this kind of really clunky. Yeah. It's kind of a clunky the way it's framed and everything. Now it's kind of at the same time. I'm fine with it. But I do prefer Han shooting first. The Jabba scene is a little Jabba in A New Hope, where they're out in the Millennium Falcon and Jabba showing up in A New Hope. It was obviously all CGI animation. Looks very different than the actual puppet Jabba that looks great in Return of the Jedi. That's jarring because Han walks over his leg. His leg. Jabba doesn't have legs. Over his slug tail. There's a number of different things that aren't necessarily my favorite. Probably my least favorite is our opening number here that we just start off with. From Return of the Jedi. Yeah. That's one of my least favorite things. Doesn't change the story at all, though. The Han shot first thing kind of changes
Still
the
love
character.
the movies.
There's a number of things that aren't necessarily my favorite. And then one more that I know has a lot of
weird.
Yeah, that scene was very weird. It's kind of it's interesting. And then one more final thing here and then you can add any of these that I didn't hit here that I at the time didn't necessarily love. I still think it is confusing, having just watched Return of the Jedi again with my wife and her parents and her brother. They were asking at the end, though, wait, Darth Vader pulls off his mask. Help me take this mask off. He dies, and then it cuts to Hayden Christensen. And then they, who are not, they're fans of Star Wars, but they have not watched the Star Wars movies in years. Like they've only seen them a couple of times. They were like, Hayden Christensen, wait, how old was he when wait? And then they're like thinking of the timeline. I'm like, well, no, that was actually, it was originally Sebastian Shaw, who's the actor who played Vader. And so it showed him as an old man in Jedi robes. And then they changed it after the prequels came out and made Hayden Christensen there. But then it is interesting that Luke, who just saw his old father and who's never met his young Hayden Christensen as he's never met young
Yeah.
Anakin, sees him. Again, I could probably, if he's him, you can piece together who that is. But it's like, well, that's weird. He's never met him.
Yeah.
He's got this.
I mean, I get why they did it
to try to tie it together, but not one of my favorites. Nate, I've been talking for 10 minutes straight. Save me.
I think touching on that real quick, kind of what Uncle mentioned a couple weeks ago in terms of what Star Wars has always had these quirky things. And even with George, I mean, you say what you want about Disney stuff, but even with George too, since we're kind of focusing on the originals right now, is there's a lot of things that just they don't line up perfectly. And we're all okay with it. It is what it is. You know, the lines here, you know, it's a little off. They're not gonna line up perfectly and like that.
Use your imagination.
You're gonna look at that and go, okay, yeah, well, they changed it to appeal to the prequel audience that's coming out, and they wanted to maybe have the option to use Hayden down the road, which now we're seeing that come about with him being in Ahsoka and seeing flashbacks. So we're seeing Hayden Christensen come back in these roles. So like, I get it. I get why they did it. Obviously, would be a little confusing. But when it comes to like the special effects stuff, are there times where like, okay, yeah, that's obviously doesn't look like the time period because those special effects maybe were more 90s, even 2000s-ish, because I know the Disney additional add-on was like 2000s, something around there that they added some more stuff. But it's funny because as I've grown up and had more of appreciation now for just film and the art of everything, like now when I watch a film, it's completely different than it used to be because every scene I'm like, oh, that's a fantastic shot, or that like the decision here was so great, the footage, it's very cinematic here. The effects look good here. So my scope is different when I watch film now. And because of that, going back and watching these with the effects, I can have an appreciation whether I think the band scene is a little much. Yeah, it is. Was George trying to show off and try to push the envelope on getting the effects out there and kind of build the industry that way? Yeah. And so now when I look at that, I'm like, okay, like, it wasn't necessary to the story, no, but I do see the art there and why George wanted to do those things because he wanted to continue to grow and advance in technology. And with ILM, they were able to do a lot of that stuff, and it single-handedly changed Hollywood forever. I mean, ILM did. So even now, things are changing. ILM documentary on Disney Plus talks all about it.
I still need to watch it.
So those are the types of things that when you look at it from different perspectives, you're like, okay, I have appreciation for that because of the art behind it or what they're doing. Now, obviously, those effects are outdated compared to now because it's 30 years later. But
There's also things when we're staying on the kind of special edition and then DVD release stuff, which came out afterwards, after the prequels. So after the special editions.
Right.
I do like the change. Talking about some stuff I like about that era of changes. So this is still way pre-Disney. The Disney sale didn't even take place until 2012, and then obviously 2015 is Force Awakens. So way before then, you got the change to the end of Return of the Jedi. If you Google Yub Nub, you'll see the original Return of the Jedi and the original ending, which is. It doesn't have this da 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 da, which is the song they have now, which is the John Williams score that he had created for the end of Return of the Jedi, and they're all dancing around. And instead, it's
yub nub. Yum nub. Yeah, it's crazy. If you guys haven't seen it, go look at it.
And it's got this strange background song, and I get it. If you grew up with Yub Nub, which that's how I first saw the movie was with Yub Nub at the end. But now having seen the two, I gotta be honest, I do prefer
it's a good
the
change.
Updated version of it.
It's a good change.
It's a good change. I really like that.
I think a lot of it just comes down to preference too. Like the Han shot first, was it a good change? I would say I like the original. I like Han shooting first.
I don't necessarily love. This is
McClunky becoming like a meme? Is it funny now?
McClunky. I don't. Meme. What's funny is because that scene already had so many tinkerings with it. When I saw McClunky, I wasn't like,
of course.
I wasn't like, this is dumb. I was like, hilarious that George Lucas still keeps.
Can't get over that.
This movie has come out 40 years ago. Now even longer than that.
They're still changing it.
But still, 45 years later, this movie keeps getting messed with and keeps changing it. I just imagine George Lucas. George's key this whole thing.
George's
McClunky. That's it. And he goes, Kathy, I know I don't have any rights over there together.
George is an author.
I love it.
George is an author who in his mind it's a story that's you can always reread it and there's improvements.
Yeah.
There's always you can always reread your writing as an author and look at it and be like, "Oh, well, I could change this line or change this here." And so that's him, except him as a director, as a filmmaker, as someone that's actually going back and doing
one other that I think is one of my least favorite little changes is some people might even not remember that in the end of Return of the Jedi, when Vader is watching Luke. And Luke's going, "Father, please," and he's getting electrocuted by the Emperor with the Force lightning. Yeah. There's a scene where he's looking, and then he picks up the Emperor and he throws him off the edge. The change that they added to it was him looking at Luke, and then he goes, "No, and like picks him up and throws him off. Which again, I understand George is making it even more simple. Like, oh, he's conflicted. This is happening.
He's trying to make verbal obvious.
That's something that we already got. I think there's plenty there that shows that he's looking at his son. He's looking at the Emperor. He's conflicted. And he goes and he makes his move. It's over explanation.
Star Wars theology. Welcome. May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. That was kind of that was in between the little.
That was in between.
That was not the voice he was looking for.
Yeah. But so there's some little changes like that. But however, I think the big thing there is always, I think why people might have a problem with it, which I totally get, with some of the special edition changes or anything, is I do kind of feel this is why it's so fascinating. I feel that George Lucas, the creator, who am I to ever say, "Oh, George, you shouldn't have done this, you shouldn't have changed, you shouldn't have done that." Great. I also, on the other hand, feel, and I'm a little bit in the camp of, I also want movies to capture and be a product of their time. And I like the fact that that some of the things that aren't perfect about A New Hope are very evident because you watch it and you go, yeah, this movie was filmed in 1976 and came out in 1977. But then when it's blended and tinkered with, now it becomes a product of 77 and a product of 96 and a product of 2008 and a product of 2015. And then you're like, dang, it's losing. Not that it makes it any better or any worse, but it's like, ooh, now I'm just seeing an ongoing. I'm seeing a picture that keeps getting painted over and painted over. That you start losing focus as to what was the original. I wonder what the original was like.
You see the lightsaber effects, and you're like, that's so cool. But then when you add all the other effects with Jabba and the animation, all this stuff, you're like, oh, that kind of overshadows the lightsaber stuff because you're
like, this thing that looked really cool at that time now looks like it's actually behind technology-wise, and then this technology-wise looks like it's better than the practical effect maybe, but also looks really bad compared to what the prequel effects are. Then prequel effects look really bad compared to Force Awakens, and like it's all this comparison thing that when you put it all together in one movie, it's a little bit hard to kind of remember what the original product was. But enough of the special editions, I say. Do you have anything else to say about the special editions?
Just to reiterate that it's a lot of that stuff comes down to just preference, I think. I mean, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Certain people may prefer different moments that change or the effects and stuff. I'm sure if there's kids now, they're watching it, never saw the original, it's like, oh, no, I like the effects more, you know? Seeing the Jabba, the goofy reactions, all that stuff is going to be great. Yeah. Plus, all that led to Jar Jar and all. So, yeah.
Love it. Yeah. I was just watching Phantom Menace a few nights ago, and there's so many great Jar Jar lines in that.
So many good
We were cracking up because some of them are just so out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love it.
Jack
George's
asked,
always pushing forward.
Do you guys ever play Super Star Wars on Super Nintendo? No,
actually, we never owned a Super Nintendo. Well,
we had Nintendo 64.
We had Nintendo 64 was the first Nintendo that we owned.
Yeah.
We played a lot of games on Sega Genesis, PlayStation 1, but N64 was the first Nintendo that we had.
Episode 1 Racer.
The Racer game is the pod racing game is awesome.
So
Rogue Squadron.
Jedi Academy.
I rented Rogue Squadron from Blockbuster so many times.
Yeah.
Played that game. It was awesome. The Old Republic games on the computer were great. There's so many different games that we played that were awesome. So, changing gears a little bit. Speaking of change.
Yeah, let's get it.
Let's fast forward a little bit to start with people talk all the time about just changes. So we're now going away from a technical standpoint of some of the technical changes that came and the effects and story stuff to let's go worldwide change of Disney buys Star Wars. This changes everything.
Changed everything.
One, we have more Star Wars. Is change good or bad? In this case, very good, I say.
Very good.
We would not have a podcast right now if Disney did not buy Star Wars.
And again, a lot of it is perspective. You can dislike a Disney project right now.
Yes.
You could dislike every Disney project that they've done with Star Wars, but still be happy that they bought it because Star Wars relevant.
Dude, there's more
you know
Star
what I mean?
Wars.
Like even the originals, people are still talking about the originals and the prequels.
There's so much Star Wars
because it's relevant.
The reason I can buy 30 different Star Wars T-shirts so easily at your regular Target, your V-Stock, your Walmart, is because there are more Star Wars movies that are always coming out. There's Star Wars shows, The Mandalorian. Again, I can't walk into a Target and not see 10 different Mandalorian things, and I go, I only have 8 out of these 10. I think I need it.
Right, and I don't like every single Star Wars project the same. I don't like every single Star Wars moment. There are things that I'm like, maybe that wasn't my favorite. But overall...
give me your top 100 things you dislike.
Okay.
Top 100. Keep it short.
Top 100.
No,
Luke kissing Leia.
That was good. No, I know what you mean. So that doesn't mean we're glossing over, and we'll get to some of the stuff that might be considered a little more negative or a little bit more. There are some changes that are not always necessarily great. There've been a lot of director changes. Sometimes great, but also sometimes there's been project changes, release date changes. There was a recent one that you're like, bums me out a little bit sometimes.
That is one thing. I think we even talked about it on, was it the last episode, last podcast? We briefly talked about how it does seem like there's a certain thing with Star Wars right now in their announcements, their dates that they're setting for shows that are changing a lot.
Yeah.
Now, I can only assume they're changing it because they have a good reason why they're changing it.
I think they also have to work around She-Hulk.
They have to work around the Marvel stuff, so I understand why these things occur.
But I do take the release dates with a grain of salt now.
I do.
And a release date comes out, and I go, cool. I think it's coming in the fall, even though they told me exactly.
Bad Batch, I have no idea when that's coming out.
No, because they kind of said, first they said
September or something?
Well, first they said spring initially, and then it said coming soon. And then they said it's going to be, now I think it's September 28th, maybe, I think. Yeah. But now, and/or September 21st. Is Bad Batch going to release literally the week after? I doubt it. I think that another change is coming.
Well, here's the thing with the announcements.
That's something that's,
I think it's a tricky area, and even for them,
it's
because I love hearing the announcements. I want to hear projects that are in development, that are being discussed. Yeah. But you also don't want to hear, this project's not happening, or even just silence on a project. We haven't heard anything about Lando in forever. Now, when you look at it that way, like, dang, that's a bummer. But at the same time, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, I want to hear the announcements, but I also understand that things change and stuff. So, does hearing a lot of that stuff in those announcements and the excitement for that also come with some negatives down the line of, dang, this isn't going to happen, and I was really excited for it. It does, but at the same time, it also allows you for the stuff that does happen to be excited for and look forward to.
I will say
it's a gray area.
In that in that same vein that we're talking about it here, there's so much about what Disney is doing with Star Wars that I absolutely love. When we're talking about some of these things, that when we say it has not been perfect, they've had Benioff and Weiss were going to do Star Wars movies. Then for a number of reasons, they didn't. Obviously, we had Lord and Miller who were going to do Solo, and then for good or for bad reasons, whatever, ended up
change route,
different difference of opinion.
Which I love Solo.
Yeah, so. I love what Ron Howard did with Solo.
Not to say I wouldn't have liked the other.
We talked
version,
about Gareth Edwards. Starts Rogue One. Tony Gilroy comes in and reshoots a ton of it because and then they kind of had to play ball together and do some stuff. And
I love
there's
Rogue
a number of different things. I love these finished products, but there are a number of things. Obviously, we've got Patty Jenkins with
Rogue Squadron.
We have Rogue Squadron. I mean, if you asked right now, do I know if Rogue Squadron is coming out? I don't know.
They still have it listed on their release date, their timeline, but there's
like Star Wars Celebration about it.
No, they didn't.
Nothing
Which
at all.
is why a lot of people are like,
and
man, maybe it's
It is a little bit of a bummer that it's Star Wars Celebration. We got no news of any movie.
I think they're saving a lot of it for Disney Plus Day.
I think they might. Now, I will say, just not for us to get too negative, because we don't like to get negative on here. And I don't want anyone to take this other than I am very high on Star Wars right now. I am so happy with what Star Wars is doing.
The more I think about Andor, the more I'm wearing a shirt, for goodness sake.
The
more I think about it, the more excited I am for it.
For sure. I'm so excited for Star Wars. And but one last thing about the movies, when we talk about some change and stuff like that, one change I would like to see, we talk about is change good or bad. One change I would like to see regarding the release, and again, who am I? It's easy for me on this nice chair. We're complimenting our own furniture.
Good or bad?
Oh, this is a bad. I don't know where that's going. You gotta jump out of that real quick. But the change I would like to see is regarding announcements, especially for movies, for films. I don't, because I am so excited for there to be more Star Wars movies. As much as I love the television shows and I love how much there are, I am very excited. I am in the camp of, I know some people are like, oh, let Star Wars just live on TV. We don't need movies. I'm not in that camp. I love the Star Wars television. Sometimes even more.
It's just hard to live up to
but
a movie
I
release.
Want to get that feeling of the community and the camaraderie of all of us packed together when we're watching, again, to use a different franchise, but we're watching No Way Home. We're watching Spider-Man No Way Home, and everyone's so excited to see what happens.
Out.
That is a very
Can you
fun
imagine
experience.
the theater reaction to Hayden Christensen and Ewan coming back in Kenobi?
I'm telling you, it would be crazy. But one thing I would like to see as far as announcements go is, as much as I'd love to hear the announcements about this is planned and this is planned and this is planned, I think, understandably so, some people are frustrated, and I would be in that camp a little bit as well, occasionally, of don't make the announcement until we have at least an outline of the story of what it's going to be, who's writing it, who's directing it. Again, you don't have to have a full cast, but sometimes they've made an announcement, and then and again, that's kind of how it is sometimes. But it's interesting when they cast someone like Taika, who I love Taika, and then he's been announced 2 years ago, and then you ask him 2 years later, and he's like, I haven't. Really
he gets asked last week, and he's like, oh, I don't even know what it's about.
I'm still trying to write the script, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what you pitched to them. Like, did they just see that? Like, you've been huge on other stuff.
We like
we'll
it, Taika. Make a movie.
That's great. And again, that could work out fantastic. But I think what some of the problems they've had in the past is they get a director before they get an idea of where it's going. This is what Colin Trevorrow, and he has an idea, and then understandably, and in this case, I understand why they decided, ooh, this actually doesn't fit with what we think Star Wars is.
Right.
And they had to change it. But also, it feels like that could have been an earlier discussion before announcing that it's him. Get an idea of what he wants to do with it. So all I say is I would like a little more specifics when it's hey, here's our next movie. Like they announced Lando. We still don't even know if Donald Glover was going to be in it. I know Donald Glover did an interview recently, and he was like, I don't even know. I can't really talk about it. I'm not sure. And maybe there's some contract stuff.
Someone else say like, well, Donald's busy.
Yeah, Kathleen Kennedy said, well, Donald's a busy guy, so that's it's basically essentially that's still in the works, but not anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm
like, well, dang, that's there's a number of things that change, and again, enough of that. I'm not trying to be negative, but if we're asking some changes, I think that could be good. Is maybe get a little bit more. I'm not in that like you have to have a perfect plan all planned out. I get some people being frustrated, wishing there was maybe a little bit more
continuity.
Continuity stuff, but I would just like to know when things are announced, hey, here's who I don't need spoilers at all. Rian Johnson's getting a trilogy. Yes or no? Is it actually going to happen? We still don't really know.
Yeah.
And then just give us, hey, here's the announcement. Here's the plan of the era it's going to be in. Boom. That's all we need to know. That'd be exciting. But enough of that. Enough of it.
Yeah,
What are we doing here?
Vincent said, I say it's very good. He's talking about Disney. Because it keeps Star Wars relevant and more enjoyable.
Oh, yeah.
When there's new shows.
Love it.
When there's no movies coming out at the same time. So
it's huge. Imagine if we didn't have these films. Or imagine during this time where we don't have the Star Wars films as much, if there was no shows. Oh, it'd be a sad Star Wars time for sure.
It would. So yeah, I
love
completely
it.
agree.
To all of that stuff to say, I love what Disney's doing with Star Wars right now. That was just if we could clean up a couple things, I think it'd be a little more smooth sailing in some of those areas. But
yeah,
don't get me wrong, I am so happy that all of a sudden we get Andor, Bad Batch, Mando Season 3, Ahsoka, The Acolyte, possibly Lando. I know they've already said that Favreau's already started writing Mando season 4.
Right.
There's a number. Andor season 2 is coming out after. There's so many things that are going to be.
I also think it's interesting that with the Disney purchase and the change there of like, oh, is it good or is it bad? It feels like the internet highlights it so much. Like there's so many like toxic and controversial opinions and takes that the internet makes it seem like if you love Disney, you hate everything else. You only love Disney Star Wars. And if you hate Disney, you like the originals, you like the prequels, but you hate the Disney stuff.
Yeah.
Empire's still my favorite movie, but I still like what Disney's doing with Star Wars.
Oh, I love it.
Does that mean I like every project the same? No.
What's your second favorite movie?
Last Jedi.
See? There you go.
Yeah.
That's prime Disney.
So I mean it's just a matter of preference. I
will say when people talk about Disney this is Star Wars, how many of you out there like The Mandalorian? Raise your hand. And all of the chat's hands went up.
I don't think anybody not like Mando.
I don't know anybody who doesn't like
or
Mandalorian.
Rebels that's seen it all the way through, or Clone Wars last season.
The end of Clone Wars. Yeah, those are all Disney.
Yeah.
Even if there's moments of different shows, and again, we've been vocal on here that there are moments of Book of Boba Fett that I love so much, and there's moments I'm like, feels like, not that I wish they would have done that, I wish they would have done that. It's just there's moments I feel were maybe a little bit of a weaker story or a little bit weaker elements. That's how all shows are. That's all movies are.
Yeah.
I watch Phantom Menace.
And some of that's necessary.
That
there's always slower.
So when we talk about changes, I am so happy that Disney bought Star Wars because we have a podcast. You all are listening to our podcast because of it. I have 30 Star Wars shirts and 70 Star Wars books. And
Star Wars books and
I just bought 5 more while we were online or while we're talking right now.
Vincent said, "I raised my hand for liking Mando and the fact that we get to see Obi-Wan reunite with Vader." Exactly.
I mean, come
we
on,
don't get
that's
these
what I'm
moments.
saying.
He said,
we don't get that.
Did you guys hear Oscar Isaac is open to returning to Star Wars? I did see that today. It was trending. Oscar
I didn't
Isaac,
see it. I didn't see it.
Apparently, in an interview, they said, are you open to returning to Star Wars? And he said, yeah, I'm open if it's a good story and a good director, I'm open for it.
Come on.
So, I mean, come on. I think
we've talked about this before. Put water on this fire, though. It's still not happening in the next 5 years.
It's not going to happen anytime soon.
Maybe it is.
I think
just because I don't think they wouldn't.
If they wanted to do a story,
I think they're going to go to a different time period.
Yeah, I think so too.
That there's so many other stories out there. They're going to.
My prediction is that they will come back eventually. They'll continue stories with Rey and Finn and Poe. Eventually, it'll be some time, like you're saying. But my guess is that Rey may not be the main character. I think she'll be involved, but I think they want to keep the Skywalker saga concluded.
Yeah, I don't think they're
because Rey is a Skywalker, and that's the conclusion of the Skywalker saga. I think they're going to intentionally be like, because then it will just become an ongoing thing of, is the Skywalker saga ever really going to end?
No, yeah.
I think it's ended.
Do you think it would be a Disney Plus show or a film? Because I don't know if they'd go back to the film for them right now, just because I think they're
John Boyega said you ain't gonna Disney Plus me, mate.
Yeah, he said that, and then Oscar Isaac Disney Plused it,
I know.
and killed it with Moon Knight.
I could see it either way, a show or a movie, but I think if they do that, it'll be focused on. I want to see Finn's Jedi journey. They teased it.
That'd be great.
I want to see some of that. Disney continues to tease it with all these the Lego continuation of the stories. They're not canon, but the Lego stories they're making with Finn being Force sensitive and being a Jedi, and that's Disney stuff. So they're obviously showing that they have this, in mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it would be great to continue the story, but I think it would focus on maybe those guys, like either Finn or Poe or even another character. Rey still being in it. Being involved, but maybe not being the main story. That way, they can continue the story without it being the Skywalker saga.
I like it,
but it'll be time.
I think it's gonna take a little bit of time. If we don't have any, do we have any chat questions? If not, I'll move on to the next one.
Keep going. I'll check chat.
All right. Well, let's do a little bit faster. I know we've talked a lot about the special editions, a lot about the Disney era of Star Wars. Now we're just kind of bouncing around some rapid fires here. Let's see if we can give a couple of topics, just a 1 or 2 minute response here. Some changes in Star Wars. I'm talking about different changes. Good or bad, that, so we're talking about Star Wars change. I think personally, it's good that we are now, as much as I love, like I'm so excited that Andor is going to what I consider kind of some of my favorite times in Star Wars. the rebellion versus the Empire.
Oh yeah.
Give me the original stormtroopers all day long, the Imperial officers. I love the look of that. However, I am very excited to see a Taika or any other film that also takes us to a completely different era of Star Wars.
That's
New
almost what I'm
planets,
most
new eras.
excited for.
So that would be change that I think would be good, and then also I do think is necessary in some sense. As far as I like the Disney Plus shows filling in some of the gaps.
You need like a palate cleanse, like.
You just don't want it to become stale.
Yeah,
you don't want it to feel like it is
take.
small. You want to continuously have these different stories that show fresh new characters, different time periods. It's I think that with a different time period, some things that you can explore, which I think the High Republic books have done so well, especially Light of the Jedi, which I'm a huge fan of.
I think Acolyte might have the chance to tap into some of this
is
too.
Definitely going to be
that's end of High Republic era.
Yeah, so what I like about a different time period is that we get to explore not just where the Jedi are at that time, but also just the political aspect. That's what I'm most looking forward to for
Without
Andor. The Empire, what's the Republic look like? What's the New Republic? What's the Old Republic? All of these different things. The High Republic era.
What was the Force like then
going on?
Versus now?
The original.
How much was lost,
of the
or
Jedi.
how much?
There's a lot of different things they could go to that I think would be really cool. So that change, which I do think it looks like it's coming, because Acolyte is going back. They've already announced that.
Yeah. They announced it is High Republic era.
Yeah, that's changed. I think is in the High Republic, the whole publishing side. I think that's a great change in Star Wars. I'm not one of those people who gets bored of what's going on Tatooine, but I think it is good having a lot of different locations, a lot of different places and stuff, and it's great.
Let's be honest. Some of that is, again, George and location-wise being limited to what is actually, if you want to do practical footage, what we're limited to landscape-wise. But now, with how good everything is, the effect, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, and
I mean, look at what was it? Exegol. Crazy planet, like awesome. All kinds of lightning, visually
by the way,
stunning.
In Shadow of the Sith.
Shadow of the Sith is great with Exegol.
Awesome.
But those are things that now that are stuff that George wishes he could have done and shown and stuff.
Yeah.
And so
exactly. There's so much that they can do that they do now with the effects, with storytelling, with again the volume. That's a positive change, even though I'm excited for Andor to see. That's a change that I think is good also. As far as I think the technology that Favreau and the guys over at ILM, all the men and women at ILM that have been working on that stuff, that technology has pushed filmmaking and
for everything.
TV and film, all that stuff, pushed it forward so much. But then also, I like that, talk about a palate cleanse or a different feel. I love watching the trailer for Andor and going, ooh, this looks way different because it looks practical. It's shot on location. It's shot in Europe, in an actual city, in an actual countryside, an actual. It's not on a soundstage, and you can tell that.
Right.
So it doesn't mean one's better over the other, but I like that they will look and feel different. I like that Obi-Wan felt very different from Book of Boba Fett.
Mando. And now Andor feels like it's going a little bit back towards that, except for taking a little twist in terms of, instead of just like a non-Force user in terms of being focused on Boba and Mando, it's spy thriller. It's
I love
politics.
I love that they're different genres. They're different things that are. I mean, again, some of the different shows they've even touched on to like a horror aspect of. I mean, there's definitely some of that in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show with what's going on with Vader. Rogue One, if the Rogue One scene, the hallway scene in Rogue One with Vader for sure.
Yeah.
So that's good change. I wonder. So when we talk about potential changes or things that are coming, I'll be very interested to see change, good or bad, as streaming has taken off and has really taken off in the last 3 years, especially 2 to 3 years now.
That reminds me of something.
So many. It reminds me, I gotta get caught up on Better Call Saul, which is not streaming. That's actually on TV. I'm just kidding. That's a side note, but that show's great, unrelated to Star Wars. But with streaming being so prominent, it's interesting because just a few years ago, it's movie. Star Wars is in the theater. Star Wars is always in the theater. I was even like, oh, a Star Wars TV show? That would be interesting. I remember being excited for Mando, not because I knew anything about who the Mandalorian was or that Grogu would be in it. None of that. It was just, I'm about to watch my first Star Wars television show. Yeah. Now, I haven't seen a new Star Wars movie in theaters since 2019.
Change back. Give us movies.
Now I'm like, I do talk about things that are good. One is great is how much content we're getting, because now we're getting more Star Wars content than ever.
Yeah.
We used to have to wait 2 years and 3 years, especially for the prequels and the originals, 3 years in between when they came out. And then after Return of the Jedi, which I wasn't born in 1983, but I was born in 1991, then I grew up watching those, and then I had no new Star Wars to look forward to until 1999. And I'm about to turn 8 years old, and I watched Phantom Menace. I'm like, great, now we got new Star Wars. And I have to wait 3 more years to 2002. New Star Wars 2005, and then that's sad. That's the end of it. Fast forward all the way to I'm in college in 2012.
Star Wars
is bought. What? They're coming out with a new Star Wars movie, and I got to wait 3 years. Oh, and I got to wait 2 more years to the movie. Oh, 2 more years. It was a great journey, stuff to look forward to. I don't think that's
and some of that anticipation too just makes it that much better.
Now I get nervous wondering where the next Star Wars film is actually going to be, what it's going to be like. I get it, not nervous like, oh, I think they're going to mess it up, but it's like I hope that with all the success of streaming, it doesn't deter them from still taking some of their big shots at some of the films. Yeah. I do think naturally it does change that they won't.
Hello there, welcome.
They won't do a lot of smaller films. I get that.
Yeah.
Even Marvel has had some movies recently that haven't made as much money on some of their smaller ones.
Yeah, they're taking a hit right now.
And then they make their announcement, obviously, of just wait, even though it's a few years from now, Avengers 5 and Avengers 6 are coming out.
Right.
And
we got Secret Wars
and Secret Wars. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they kind of have to say that, though, to basically be like, hey,
this is what it's building
be
up
patient.
to.
Like, even a franchise that's that huge right now
is getting criticisms.
Like, So that's the positive and a negative of some of the changes. Great, all the content, and I love the content we've been getting on Star Wars. So good. I love Bad Batch. I can't wait for more Bad Batch.
Can't wait.
What do you feel about some of the changes as far as more streaming, less movies? Are you afraid that movies are going anywhere for Star Wars? Or
I mean,
Marvel's come out with a
ton of movies.
Now again, they also have it's a different format as far as
I mean, they're
all the
what
comic
they're doing
books
just,
and everything, and just the interconnectivity of all of it. But what do you feel about Star Wars films?
I think
good or change bad.
I don't think they're going anywhere. Obviously, right now it's neither bad nor good. It's just I wish we had more films right now, but that's just it is what it is.
Yeah,
they're kind of taking the time to let the sequel settle and focus on the shows and then figure out a plan on what they want to do for the next movie to come out. I think when it does come out, I think they're gonna take what they have an understanding of what people want. And if you hear the rumors of even the projects that have maybe been announced or directors that they've brought on that then their ideas fell through, they've talked about Origins of the Jedi, Old Republic. These are things that are in talks with Lucasfilm for potential movies to be made. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm confident when you hear that stuff because those are things I would love to see, that whether they go that route immediately with whatever their next movie is or not, or maybe it's further down the line, that they have an understanding of these things. They know that they want to maybe move away from the Skywalker saga and go kind of different direction, different time period, whatever it is. It's just the time. It's just waiting for that to happen. So, I love I guess I like the change because we're getting way more content on screen, but I don't want it to diminish the feeling of going to the films and getting those. I don't want them to be like, oh, we don't have to take as much, like we don't have to go all out on this film, because if it's not as big, it doesn't hit, we can continue the story on streaming.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen.
I know.
And I feel like some of that is kind of happening with Marvel. There's a little bit of like, this whole movie leads to this, but they're not going to tell this whole thing because it's going to lead to this show and you got to go watch this. So it's like, I get why, because they want everybody to see all these projects. But at the same time, like, I want the movies to be an experience. Go see it, enjoy it, way bigger than what anything streaming could be. And then still enjoy the content we get from streaming and enjoy those series, because that medium is good for the longer, slower storytelling because you can do the episodes.
Yeah. It's just as you're talking there, I'm thinking about when inevitably, because I do believe a Star Wars movie will come out in the next few years. I think it'll
Real
be
quick,
a
Parker
couple
said,
years.
"What are our thoughts on Andor?" We'll get to that in a second.
Oh,
I just want you
that
guys
is-
to know we do see your stuff,
yeah,
but if
yeah.
we're in the middle
Well,
of a certain
I'll
topic,
keep this answer real quick then. When we talk about changes, throughout from the prequels, so from the originals to the prequels to the
Yeah.
sequels, one big thing that I think Star Wars has been great at, and I think they'll be consistent with this moving forward, and I hope they do, is that they are great at casting. They are great at casting their big three in the original trilogy, and then they add Billy D. Williams, big four, fantastic.
Yeah.
Then they add the prequel actors, and you get, obviously, Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, you get all these guys, that Natalie Portman, you get Liam Neeson, you get all Ian McDermott.
That was
all
my
this stuff.
bold prediction.
It was
Natalie
great.
Portman would be in the
I
flashback.
know, I thought
wanted
so too.
it so
Didn't
bad.
end up happening.
That's
but,
all right.
At least he did mention, he said your mother. He didn't say Padme's
Yeah.
name, but he was talking about your mother.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, that the actors that they just cast in the sequels that were great as well. That's a big thing as far as changing of the guard, the new focus, and they've done a great job at that. The people that they cast in the sequel trilogy, these are some of the best actors in Hollywood.
Well,
Daisy
the sequel
Rid-
trilogy,
Daisy
regardless of
Ridley,
whether you like the story
Adam
or not,
Driver,
the acting by all
Oscar
of them.
Isaac, John Boyega, then you got Domhnall Gleeson, you've got Andy Serkis.
Even the original cast.
You get all of these. They're great. Yeah, they're awesome.
Even Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher.
Oh yeah, they're all better than
their
ever.
acting
is great. They're awesome.
best we've ever seen.
It's
so
awesome.
yeah, I mean, there's no question the acting is unbelievable.
So there's
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver,
Daisy
I mean,
Ridley, unbelievable acting. Yeah, they're
Oscar
great.
Isaac, all these guys. Obviously Daisy Ridley, John Boyega.
Yeah,
They're
They're all
fantastic
great.
actors.
Yeah.
I love it. So that's one big thing that'll be interesting. I was just thinking, who's the next batch?
And
Who's the
Star
next
Wars always
cast?
kind of likes to get some
They
that
like getting
are
some
that are
unknowns who
maybe in
haven't
a
popped
couple
yet.
things, but they try and bring them
Wants
in.
to turn him into really
Yeah.
like Harrison Ford had been in American Graffiti, but wasn't a huge star yet. Mark Hamill had done some television stuff, and then boom, they explode on the scene.
Yeah, and
Carrie
I
Fisher.
kind of like that because you don't
I
come
do
in
too.
thinking, oh, that's Christian
I
Bale.
didn't know a ton about Adam Driver.
Oh, that's Christian Bale as a Jedi. It's that's
No.
Darth Bane.
Daisy
or
Ridley
whatever.
was essentially an unknown. That was it. I
Yeah.
remember when she was
It's like our
cast.
first thing.
The
first
only
big
thing they had was like one headshot that was going around the internet of this is who was cast in it, because no one had any footage of her in anything.
That's
no one had
so
anything on the
crazy.
internet
Could
of,
you
like,
imagine not being in
here's-
anything, and then they're like, "Oh, by the way, you're gonna reset Star Wars."
Now you type in Daisy Ridley and it comes up with the top 10 billion pictures of Daisy Ridley, like paparazzi falling or red
That's
carpet.
just
This no one
insane.
even knew who she
Can you
was.
Imagine.
That was just a handful of
That's
years
just
ago.
Insane.
That's
It's
crazy.
insane.
Talking about Andor, is that what?
Parker said, "What do you guys think about Andor?" Real quick, but we'll get to that. But Vincent, just want to answer some of these questions before we wrap up.
Let's
here
do
in a
it,
minute.
yeah.
But Vincent, great question. Even Parker said, great question. When is Star Wars guys merch coming out?
Talk about good change.
Good change. Listen, we're talking fantastic change.
Are we talking bad?
If you actually watch our last podcast, I think I was wearing one of our shirts.
You were.
Okay, yeah.
So. I love that.
Yeah, I may have hit it a little bit. I don't know if I actually showcased it or not. I
I
can't
don't know
remember.
if we made an
But
announcement about it.
great question. Star Wars guys merch. Got a couple designs to start with. We're going to be doing a giveaway, all right, live here on the channel as soon as we hit 5,000 subs. And
Where
we're
are we
approaching
at?
it. We're at, what, 4,100 and something? So
Oh, come on.
we hit 5,000 subs.
That's
so,
right there.
like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, share it with your friends, have your parents subscribe, get the numbers up. As soon as we hit 5,000, we're going to be doing a giveaway. We're giving away some Funko Pops, some Star Wars phone cases,
These phone cases are sick. I've
and
got one
our
of them
own
on right
merch.
now.
and our own merch. So we'll give away a few shirts, all that stuff. We're going to do a drawing live on our show, and that is when the shirts will be live. We're going to do the giveaway first. So if you win the shirts in the giveaway, you'll be the first ones to get the Star Wars Guys merch, and then our shirts and stuff will
The
go
merch
live.
is pretty sweet.
And then it will go live.
I'm excited for the merch. We've talked merch for years.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
finally
the
got a
time's
couple
finally
designs,
here.
and we'll continue adding, coming up with more
just
ideas.
a couple
and
of
stuff,
starter
but
starter
just a
pieces
couple things,
to get some stuff out there.
Yeah.
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 Love it.
So yeah, great question. Glad you asked it. And then Andor.
Andor.
Wrap it up with some Andor before we end. Good
Talking
change,
about-
bad change.
good change.
Andor.
Good change with Andor. The visuals, how it
Oh,
looks,
yeah.
the feel of it. I don't think there's going to be, and maybe
It
I'm wrong.
looks big.
I
Like,
don't
it
think
looks,
there'll be a
the
ton
scale
of
looks
the
big.
feel of Andor so far doesn't look like. Apologies. Even though I think that's funny, that feels a little Favreau-esque as far as some of the comedy stuff, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But this feels darker. We talked at last episode of maybe even for a little bit of an older audience, not like inappropriate, but just
the political game.
Yeah, it's a little
all
bit
that
more
spy.
of some heavy life or death stakes with a little bit of a darker, more sinister tone. Maybe. I'm so excited for Andor.
I can't wait for Andor, and I plan. It's funny you say that because I plan on making a video that I'll post about this. But one of the reasons why I think a lot of people, and myself included, us included, are so hyped for it, because I started thinking about this. Is like Obi-Wan. Everyone was loving Obi-Wan. Like, was super excited for Obi-Wan. Now, some people have, since it's come out, some people love it. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite live action show.
Same.
Some people maybe were a little disappointed. They expect some other stuff. Maybe that didn't happen and disappointed. Anyway, regardless of that, I think the majority of people are still really excited for Andor because, one, there's not a ton of expectations.
Yeah,
we know the characters just enough to be attached to them, but have no idea what the story is really going to be. We know there's maybe some politics going to be involved. We're getting back a little bit to that prequel-esque political game era of kind of getting to see Palpatine like play the politics, right, from the prequels.
And
so
Mon
we're
Mothma.
seeing, Mon Mothma. We're gonna see the Imperial Senate as we've seen in the trailer. So I'm excited to see that stuff. It's just the idea of getting kind of this different theme we haven't seen yet of a spy thriller, series. We got a little bit bounty hunter and the Mando stuff, but even that ended up leaning heavily into Grogu and the Force.
Yeah, a little more
Ahsoka
mythology stuff.
And Luke.
A little bit of the
this
lore.
feels like none of that. Some of that could be involved. It is Star Wars, so I wouldn't put it past them that a Jedi won't be involved, because when people think Star Wars, they think Jedi. So is a Jedi going to be involved? Maybe. It wouldn't surprise me but it also wouldn't surprise me if there's not. And they really lean into that.
And more good change involving Andor. 12-episode seasons.
12 episodes. Already announcing 2 seasons.
2 seasons.
12 episodes
12
each.
episodes each. The scale of it is huge. I know they've talked about there being like 200 characters, like over 100 characters that have speaking parts. Like, that's outrageous. It's
crazy.
Enormous. Which is much, and I love all the other Disney Plus shows, and again, some to varying degrees. But even Obi-Wan that we just had, when we get a 2-episode premiere, all of a sudden I go, dang, we're a third of the way through.
Yeah.
And now with this, we'll get a 3-episode premiere, but we get then 9 consecutive weeks after that of 1 episode, because we get 12 total episodes.
3 months.
And I am so excited about getting
months.
that much.
I saw it ends. They released the schedule.
Yeah,
the episode release schedule. They released it today.
I saw that. I screenshot
and it ends end of November.
I know. I can't wait.
It's literally going into almost
Which means
December.
End of November. I don't know about Bad Batch. We'll find out.
It has to overlap unless they.
I know, unless I think that's going to come out around.
I
the same time.
I think they're going to announce it maybe with with the Disney Plus Day. I think we're going to get more information here soon. A lot of people, I saw this too, and we can wrap up here pretty soon. But I saw this going around on Twitter that a lot of people are expecting. Now, again, be careful with your expectations, because if you expect too much, you're probably going to be let down. But after a lot of people being let down last year on Disney Plus Day, because Star Wars fans, not just people in general. I mean, there was a lot of Star Wars fans that were expecting a handful of announcements, and we didn't really get much.
No,
we didn't get. There wasn't a lot of Star Wars involved in Disney Plus Day. So because of that, and I remember their reaction.
What day is Disney Plus Day?
I don't remember. We can
Isn't
look
like
it up.
November
Maybe someone
or
in chat can look it up for us.
October, November.
I think it's next month.
September. I'm just guessing.
I think it's next month. But because of that, I've got a feeling they may, take that into consideration and have some stuff maybe they're ready to talk about, whether it's a movie announcement, or maybe even if it's not a title or something, but just talk about it. Yeah. Say they're excited about Taika and the vision he's got, or even give us confirmation on Bad Batch dates and things. Yeah. Acolyte, maybe some more casting. And
we got
no
Acolyte info at Celebration.
So it feels
That's
like
kind of one of
they're
the big
holding out
omissions,
some stuff.
yeah.
So I'm holding out hope that there will. I'm not going to get my expectations up too high.
Yeah.
But
I'm excited for whatever they give us.
Yeah.
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 I love
We'll
it.
see.
Anything else we got here?
I think that's it. Parker said, "Thank you for answering my questions." Yeah, no problem. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
I love it. This is a fun one. This is a different
It is.
episode as far as when you look at from a macro scale changes, good or bad, what's been going on with Star Wars. A lot of good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure, there's some stuff that I think I think Kathleen Kennedy herself would be like, stuff has been great. There's also been stuff that hasn't gone perfectly, just like any business, just like stuff hasn't gone perfect in Marvel. Like you have to pivot, you have to make different tough calls. Bob Iger said in his book, which I have, was it Right of a Lifetime? The Bob Iger book talked about how he regrets, and he said it was his call that he pushed up and pressed for. I'm just keep looking
Solo.
at the Solo. I keep looking over there at Solo. We've got a poster just off screen of Solo. But he's the one who wanted that to be moved up to May, and other people were saying you should push it back to December.
The Star Wars
we've been
time.
putting our flag in December. And it's been crushing it.
And he's like, no, we got
he's like,
deadlines.
no, we had Last Jedi. We got to make more money now, even after this. And it was too close to The Last Jedi. But even more importantly, it was too close to Avengers Endgame. And so 2 Disney properties were just, it got swallowed up by the marketing of Avengers Infinity War, I believe it was at the time.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that, I don't remember where I was going with that.
Change. Yeah.
Change.
Vincent, awesome podcast tonight, guys. See you next time. May the Force be with you. Thank you.
love
May
it.
the Force be with you. Appreciate it.
May the Force be
But
with
yeah,
you.
before we wrap up, just want to say, if you haven't noticed, last podcast and this podcast, we did keep the episode a little shorter, and we just want feedback. We always want to be transparent on our podcast, and we want to know what you guys prefer. Are the 2 hour,
Are they
2.5 hour long podcast too long?
Honestly, raise your hand if you're actually listening to the whole thing.
Yeah. And if you're not, that's fine. We just want honest feedback. We want our show to always be able to continue to grow and get, as many people involved in the Star Wars community that want to find a positive space for Star Wars where they can like or dislike whatever they want, but still feel welcomed here. And so we're just always looking for feedback and how to improve the show. So let us know. Do you like the shorter, maybe hour-long episodes, or do you want the 2-hour episodes where you can put it on for 30 minutes, an hour in the car, turn it off, and then come back again and finish the episode? Let us know. We're always open to feedback, and that just goes for anything. We always want to learn what our audience likes and what you guys prefer, so that we can kind of adapt to that and provide, I guess, the content, the episodes that you guys want to see. So if it's certain topics you guys want us to talk about, let us know, and we'll try and make those into episodes for you guys. But again, excited for the giveaway. So make sure you guys, like and subscribe so we can get to those 5,000 subscribers to do the giveaway.
Mm-hmm.
We're really excited and looking forward to that. So with that, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. And as always, may the Force be with you.
Anakin, I don't want things to change. But you can't stop the change. Any more than you can stop the suns from setting.
Perfect, right?
Perfect.
Change.
Way to end it.
Did you like my Shmi Skywalker?
Skywalker impression's fantastic.
Oh, boy.
That's classic.